Yes, greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I take the honor and the privilege to share with you in this class, health and wholeness, and we want to address our topic number 10. And I want to ask all of us to address our minds to our handbook. If you have your student workbook, you'll turn with me, or as we do this, probably you need to follow through page 174. That's where we have first aid and early intervention. So we want to look at first aid and early intervention, and I must mention before we start that again, this is not to equip you to be a health expert, but basically to give you the skills that actually you can use to help a friend or help yourself or even your family in times when you cannot provide first aid. So we're going to share with you I'm going to share with you some of the few areas, and then you read in our text to expand on your understanding of first aid and early intervention. I have observed over time that we have had scenarios where cases of victims have died in our hands or in the hands of even our security agencies like the police. In the bid to provide first aid, we end up actually taking their lives. And so through this class, we'll be able to learn how we can provide first aid and how we can identify early signs of an illness and then be able to intervene. Ladies and gentlemen, when I talk of first aid, I'm simply saying this is the emergency treatment offered to a person before real treatment comes. And of course, we are all aware that in our day-to-day lives, in a society where we live, we have got scenarios or incidents that cause pain, that cause harm to our lives and the lives of others. And so at times we need to provide that first treatment, that emergency treatment. It is called emergency because you want to be able to intervene and save a life. You want to be able to intervene and be able to preserve life, reduce pain, and keep the conditions from worsening. So the moment you don't intervene urgently into offering that first treatment or that first aid, then you're likely to lose a life, yet you could actually save it. One of the first lessons that I want to mention here is that when we're offering first aid, we need not to panic. We need not to panic as first aid providers, so that we can actually be able to help the person that needs our assistance. First aid, one, you must be a leader. You must be a leader and act. And when I talk about act is an acronym that actually represents, A stands for aid. You save the victim from further harm. Then, in other words, when you are at the scene of an accident or when you reach the scene of an accident, you should be able to save this person by providing that emergency treatment that he deserves or that he needs, so that you can actually save him from further injuries. If this person has been knocked down by a running car or has been burned, then you want to save them from further injuries. But also, secondly, as you provide the aid, you need to assess events that surround the accident or the illness to be able to give authorities, these could be doctors, this could be whoever would be, wherever you would actually want to take this person, to be able to relay relevant facts for health care. If it is a snake bite, for example, you want to get this snake, you want to hit this snake if you have an opportunity, then carry it with you so that you can help the people who are providing first aid to understand the type of snake, the kind of venom probably it produces, and the best way they can treat this person. If it is, so you need to assess what was there. If he fell from the motorcycle or a bicycle, then you would want to say, I think when he was falling, because at that time, this person may be unconscious, may not be able to talk. So you could be actually help in relaying relevant information on his or her behalf. Then C, again, when we go to our acronym ACT, C stands for comfort. Make the victim as much comfortable as possible. You need to comfort them. You need to encourage them. You need to strengthen them so that they are not actually, they don't get actually stressed up. They don't get, worried. And then, secondly, you need to reassure the victim and the family. I've seen many times when on an accident scene, people, when they reach there, they're like, Mama, on our way, this one is finished. Now, when you say that to the casualty, you say that to the victim, and the victim hears that, he will lose hope. He will lose all that actually he was thinking about, and he may think actually, indeed, he's finished. But I want to encourage us that when we are providing first aid, we need to reassure the victim, so that the family, and even the family, even when this person has been taken into the theater for an operation as a professional counselor or a professional doctor or a professional, you need to encourage them that actually the situation is under control. Because the moment you say this is gone, the situation we cannot handle, then the person you're working on may also lose hope. Then T stands for transport. You need to transport this victim to a nearby health facility for help. If it, so you need to transport. You need to find a way. If it means calling police, the 99 pickups to come and help you, you need to do that. You need to be equipped that actually in case of an accident, in case of any scene of accident, you just need to simply dial 99 for the Uganda police to be able. Most of them will actually come. They always come, respond, and then you could also find a way to support them in providing first aid to this particular person. So these are some of the incidents, some of the cases of first aid some of the incidents that require first aid. One is bleeding, and when we talk about bleeding, we need to add pressure, put pressure on the injured part. And here you could put pressure by either getting a clean cloth and then you tie the injured part so that you can actually be able to hold it. And of course, if it is the arm, still you'd do the same. But also, we are advised that we make the person lie down flat on a flat surface, and then they raise the injured part above the heart level. The argument here is very simple, ladies and gentlemen, that when you are assuming I have an injury on the arm here, and I raise my arm when I'm lying down, the heart will not pump blood there. And the moment it doesn't pump blood there, it will actually cause some clotting and blood will stop flowing. So that's the reason why we say we raise the injured part above the heart level if it is possible. Okay? Then you can also lose the wrap with the clean cloth, and then so you loosen, you don't tie to ensure that the pulses are not moving, but you need to tie, but not so tight to the extent that the person will not be able to, the pulses will not be able to function. The second condition is fractured bones. Fractured bones. Now, when I talk about fractured bones, here I'm talking about broken bones. And a fracture is basically a broken bone, and fractures usually actually happen as a result of the major issues that happen. You're moving, you fall, trauma, you fall down and get all these problems. So you may want to immobilize the broken bones, and then you may want to place a sprint. These are sprints on the arm. You could actually put the sprints around the fractured bones and then tie them tightly enough to keep them from movement. You want to tie them so that there is no movement. For example, if it was this point here, you'd want to ensure that there are no movements that continue to happen. If it's a finger, you'd want to put on that so that you don't need to, And when you check on page 177 of your workbook, you'll also learn that there is actually another picture. It's actually there. They are here of this. In hospitals, they do put some of these things. Why do they put this? Some of these sprints to be able to make sure that the bones don't move, and then they tie them together so that you are able I mean, the bones are able to go back. For children, there are high chances of these bones joining again, even in some adults, but in adults, at times, it is hard. The third case where you need to know, what you need to know more about first aid is the cardiac arrest. And when I talk about cardiac arrest, here we are talking about someone becoming unconscious. You become unconscious where the heart is unable probably to pump blood better. And so you want to be able, first of all, to check for the heartbeats, whether the heart is still pumping. You want to check for the breathing by feeling for a pulse or observing the chest for movement, whether the chest is moving up, and down. You want to check through that. And if you observe that there's actually the chest is moving back and forth, then you want to be able, because the whole issue here is that the goal is actually to get oxygen filled around this person. I've seen on many occasions, again, when someone gets such a cardiac arrest or falls down, people collect around, they surround the person. If it is in the room, the person has not even access to oxygen. So here we are saying we need to support these people by getting oxygen onto them. We need to, get them, give them space that can allow them free air movement. So you need to clear the airway. You need to clear the airway. If the person was putting on a necktie or something very tight around the neck, you want to clear some of these so that they can be able to have access to oxygen. If not breathing, give mouth to mouth, mouse to mouse. We call it mouse to mouse air saturation. So you want to, pump in air through their mouth. But also we can also do what we call the chest compressions. Chest compressions where you press around the chest, you keep on pumping, you keep on pushing up and down so that you can, this person can actually get, when you pump, if you keep on, with those compressions, then chances are high you can actually reawaken the lungs to be able to continue again pumping. And then the other incident is choking. Choking is so much common in children, especially those who are learning how to eat, especially those who are just beginning. For such children, you want to ensure that you hold some of them. The second picture here, you want to hold them across your arm and then hold them facing down. Make several gentle blows. You don't punch. I know when we were growing up, whenever you would be choked, someone would come and hit you at the back. But this time around, we are saying these are children. You don't need to hit them like that, but rather you need to give them a gentle blows with the hand to the back between their shoulder blades. Those bones are the behind bones at the back. So you need to do the gentle ones in between those bones. And you can actually also sweep your finger through the child's mouth or the infant's mouth to be able to remove the food particle or the debris that is actually inside there. For the adults, you could actually, those who are choking, you can actually also support them by either grabbing them from behind around the waist, and then you make a fist with one hand and the thumb pointing in. Now when you make that thumb pointing in, then you do a fist halfway between the navel and the bottom bones of the breast bone below, like the way it is actually being illustrated in this picture here. And then you grab the other hand, and then you give several jerks. You jerk. As you jerk, as you jerk, someone is first, if there's something broken somewhere, is likely actually to get out. But also you could do if you're choking alone and you're alone in the house, you could also help yourself. We call that self-help. You grab a chair the way it is there, and then you do some jerks also. You can actually, save yourself by jerking yourself on the chair because you have no one who could help you at that time. The other condition is actually poison. Poison, this is very common in Uganda. We have cases of paraffin, medications, and caustic acids. Most of the children actually land on these medicines at home. We need to be very careful because most of these have, put conditions, please store them away from children. So we need to keep them away from children. especially if you're at home and you have your drugs that you're swallowing. Children at times when they are sweet, they don't even understand. They will actually just pick and swallow. Yet some of them could be even stronger than them. So we need to avoid that. But in instances where that happens, you need to get this child immediately to a doctor. But also on the way, as you take this child to the doctor, you need to give them a lot of water. Not only a child, but even adults. You need to take a lot of water to dilute it, but also milk. And on the way, as you do that, you never know, they may throw up, they may begin vomiting, and cleanse out of, get rid of these toxins. But also it's important that you carry this type of poison, or you carry the bottle, whichever they are drugs, you need to carry them with you to the doctor so that they know exactly what actually happened. The other incident that requires first aid, ladies and gentlemen, is fits and seizures. Fits and seizures. When I talk about fits and seizures, you'll check in your book. When you get your book, you look at page 180, where we talk about fits. Now, these fits, what is the cause of fits or seizures or convulsions? These are caused by a disturbance in the brain function. And sometimes this could be a result of the head injury, and sometimes these head injuries happen at birth, especially when this mother produces this child from untrained trained medical personnel who cannot actually know that the head of a child should be handled like this at birth. But also it could be a result of diseases like malaria, cerebral malaria, that also affects the functionality of the brains. But also it could be the shortage of supply of oxygen to the brain. And sometimes we have issues of poisons and epilepsy. All these can actually cause fits and seizures. I must mention, ladies and gentlemen, that when I talk about convulsions, fits and seizures, these are not contagious. They cannot be spread from one person to the other. I've seen so many young men and women suffer in the hands of those that take care of them, because when they get these fits, everyone takes off. There has been that kind of myth that when actually someone gasses or passes out gas when you're nearby with the fits or seizures or epilepsy, that once you breathe in that, you also get them. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not true that convulsions are contagious. And so I want to encourage people that if you get such a case, then you need to find a way to support them. And you need to help this person by allowing them to fall easily or easy fall. You want to loosen clothing around their neck so that they don't use them to strangle themselves. But also as they fall down, you need to ensure that their heads are pressed on a softer surface. You could put a pillow, you could put something and place something softer on their head and shoulders, because as they are rolling and nodding the heads, you don't want them to be near cooking stones. You don't want to have them near pangas and hoes and so you want to remove all those things that could actually harm them, that could cause actually any injuries. And others have seen them, they hold them down tightly. Please do not hold them down, because as they are struggling to pick the air, you might actually again cause them to lose out the air, the breath. So do not do that. Secondly or thirdly, you don't need to put anything in their mouths. I've seen cases of people where when these children or these people are getting these convulsions, someone actually chooses to get a spoon and fixes it, fixes it in the mouth of these people. Please do not do that. Do not fix anything in the mouth of this person. And so make sure that at least they are free. Get medical help, and this is most important. Get medical help and be sure that you are saving a life. Some people talk about shoving the onions in the mouth, putting a spoon in the. Please do not do this, because they may end up biting their tongue and many others. Fire. This is fire. When your clothes catch fire, you take them off. Part out. Parting out is when you drop. You stop, drop, and roll. Stop, drop, and roll. So you stop, fall down, then roll. There, you'll be sure that this fire will actually be put off from your clothes. Where possible, you remove clothing covering a burn. In this case, the clothes the burn is somewhere in a very dangerous place. As you can see, You remove the clothes, then to be safe, because now if you leave them on, then fire may not be put off quickly. Treating a burn, I think some of these they are there. Simple burns with no blister, you can actually apply cold water. It's enough, and some painkiller. If it has blisters, they are swollen stuff, do not break. Wash with cool, clean water, and you leave it to heal. Never smear oil. Many times people smear oil or butter. Serious burns with the charred flesh, they need medical attention. You wrap it with a very clean cloth and transport the person to the to the health center, and also keep up liquids in there. You keep up liquids if large area. Some of these you may need to give them some oil. Simple cuts and scalps. These are basically, you were peeling, you cut yourself. You're cutting meat, you cut yourself. You're washing something, it cuts you. So just wash most of these. Wash the cut area. Then you can, so that there is no dirt, you can actually put some bandage around, and then you can also put ice on it if swelling. Footballers always use ice. When they are injured on pitch. Why? Because they want to keep the swelling. You don't want the part to swell. Watch for infections. You can use some of these other, liquids that ensure that the wound is clean. These are deep cuts. Like I said in my previous class, this is my colleague from Uganda Christian University. We were working with him. You can see those pictures were taken on 2nd of January 2021. This gentleman we had spoke, we were teaching together this same paper at Uganda Christian University. He's called Zach Murawa. This man got an accident. He got an accident on his way from Obujiri as he was heading to Kampala. And his skull opened. The skull opened. Now, I wanted to say something. If you could see all these wounds, this man in the taxi he was in, they had a head-on collision, and you can see this first picture. The skull, this thing opened up. They stitched from here up to here. And so one of the things I wanted to mention, when you reassure the casualty, this man, as you see, when he was from the theater for stitching, he was unconscious. He could not remember anything. He couldn't know what was going on. But let me tell you, friends, if this young man, at the time of accident, had heard what people were saying at the scene, he would have lost hope. I remember we had just spoke. Then in the few minutes, someone calls me, says, "Hey, do you know the owner of this phone?" I said, "Yes." And I said, "For I've stolen the phone." And so the person has died. And this was unbelievable. We contacted the family. We ran to the scene. We reached there. The next day, we found him when he was actually in that state. But he says that he remembers one statement of a relative who found an accident had just happened as they were putting him on a police pickup to take them to Iganga Hospital. This gentleman sat with him at the back of the pickup and told him, "Zach, you'll be fine. You'll be fine." But imagine the person who called and said, "You know what? This man has actually, the head has been shattered, the chest and the legs," because you could see the blood. You can see the t-shirt down here, the one he was putting on, because now it was all full of blood. It was all full of blood. And indeed, because of this skull had the blood that was flowing from the head, one could actually think that this man was dead. But let me tell you, friends, we need to reassure these people that even in that situation, they still have a life to live. And so you need to find a way you can actually keep this, encourage them. There are some infections of that kind. You need also to know how to treat them. And some of them are red, swollen, hot, painful. They have pus, they begin to smell, many things. You need to find a way you can keep them healthy. Keep them clean with soap and water to avoid some infections. You apply Dettol, the solvent, the peroxide, to disinfect the wound, and many others. Let me talk about the snake bites. Friends, if you look at this gentleman, there's a snake holding onto his face. When you have such, it becomes hard to advise, as I'm going to say down here. But when we talk about snake bites, assuming it bites, many times it's the leg, it's the arm, Now, one of the things we must do is to stay calm and quiet. Why? because when you make noise and make alarms and rapid actions, they will spread. They will increase the heartbeats, and the moment the heart increases pumping, then it will be circulating blood. If it was on the feet, and for example, the snake beat you on the foot, and then you run or you make a noise, blood will quickly circulate to the heart, and that will be the end, even if you get medical. So you need to stay calm and quiet, and then get help as you get to hospitals. I've seen cases of people, when such a scenario happens, they tell you, let's run, and by the time you get to the hospital, the medics have nothing to do. Please do not. Wrap the beaten part area with broadcloth very well, tightly, but make sure that the pulses are there, and then you can immobilize now the beaten area, no movement, to make sure that there's no movement, and then you transport this person to health center. There's a myth that cutting, sucking poison, use of black stones, all these do not work. Please do not get a snake bite and say, let me cut and suck the venom, the poison, and I will be fine. Please go for medical treatment. Ladies and gentlemen, that marks the end of first aid. What is early intervention? I want to talk about just two things under early intervention. Then you look at the rest. First and foremost, when I talk about early intervention, as the concept it is there, we are simply saying we want to intervene when it is still early. In other words, early intervention is identifying the early signs of illness and taking steps to get help before it becomes serious. In other words, you have been there, okay, the next morning you wake up and the neck is very stiff, the eyes you can't see well, the teeth is paining, you have developed rashes on the body, the temperature is gone, you are sneezing, you are urinating blood, you go to person's stool, it has blood, and so all these are indicators that there is something that is coming. There must be a source. So why should you get worried? Because many diseases, they do actually start with mild symptoms. They start with mild symptoms and then they keep on progressing. So you don't want them to progress to the point that they will affect your organs and the entire body system. So which may actually end up being too difficult for the body to fight them. And so you want to get worried because you want to intervene early. And of course, eventually some of these serious issues may occur in the body and you cannot actually be able to fight. How do you identify these signs of an illness? This leads me to the concept of routine screening. Routine screening means you go to your doctor on a routine basis. You say every month, maybe in 3 months, I go to my doctor to check, to deworm me. We always think deworming is only for children, but even in adults, we need to be dewormed. You want to go for regular dental or annual dental check or visions, checks. You want to check about your blood pressure checks. These days I was telling the other class that actually these days life has been made simple with this technology. You don't need to struggle with technology, and so you want actually to go to your app, your Play Store, and download applications. There are so many applications that actually can help you even track your blood pressure on a regular basis. There are some of these applications. There are some of those applications. I don't know whether you can be able to see that. But when you have some of these on your phones, on your gadgets, then you're actually good to go. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't need to die of some of these things, yet you can actually check them. So you need to do that routinely with your doctor. You check blood pressure, you check many things. You having them provide you all this, you need to do that. Check your ears, check your throat, your eyes, and many things. So that when anything happens, then you're able to know how to intervene. There are many symptoms you need to look at. Fever, vomiting, diarrhea. I've talked about some of these. Moles, pain anywhere. You have loss of appetite. You can't see well. There is teeth. The issues of large amounts of blood. You're losing blood. The issues of coughing up blood. Blue lips, nails, difficulty in breathing. You're not improving. Day 2, you are not urinating 3-4 days. Heavy vomiting, many of these, passing out, black stool, like tar, like you've taken charcoal. There must be a problem. So you need to watch out for all these. Stiff neck, backache. You want to talk about issues of stiff jaw, the feet with fever or serious illnesses, most of these things you need to watch them out. And the moment you watch them out, then you want to be able to go and see your doctor. The moment you identify these signs and you go and see the doctor, the conditions can be arrested early. But when you don't, then there will be a problem. Make sure that when you go to your doctor, he understands your history of your problem and other problems, so that you can actually get treatment for those problems. Let him examine you, let him touch you, listen to you, look at you, diagnose you, and tell you what is the problem. And you'll be able to discuss the treatment together. Where possible, you can actually give contact information if there's any problem. When you get this medication, understand its name, the dose, the condition it treats, how it will affect you at work, whether you are unable to drive, you're unable, whether it will affect your appetite, whether it will increase appetite, and many other things. And the moment you do that, I'm sure you'll be the best. I want to conclude with the whole truth. Luke chapter 10, verse 30 to 36. Jesus said, a man was going to Jericho. Robbers stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away. A priest passed by, a Levite passed by, but a good Samaritan bandaged his wounds, poured on oil and wine, and took him to an inn and took care of him. He paid the inntaker to look after the man. Which of these was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robber? It is actually a question we need to think about. We don't need to provide first aid to people that we know. We can also be like this good Samaritan. You can imagine the priest came, the Levite passed by, and he said, to me that is not my role. But when we choose to say that is not my role, then this society will have no one to help. We must begin by helping even those that we don't know before we get to the people we know. Because you never know when you get these problems, when your person gets these problems, when you are not there to help, but someone else will help. I want to wish you the best. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching this video. Please go ahead and hit the like button on this my YouTube channel. Just hit the like button and then follow through the class. I want to wish you the best. Thank you, and may God bless us all as you go through this course. I pray that the Lord will give you more insights to understand it better. Bye for now.